All right, boys and girls. In this um, particular video, this is just to show you how to run a statistical report. As I told you, this is pretty near and dear to my heart, so of course, I need for you guys to put some respect on this test. All right? The steps of doing any type of regression is reading the problem or knowing the problem, but in this case, reading it, input the data, pull the data, interpret the data. And we're going to do all them steps just like this or just like that. Trisha is packing for vacation, is wondering how many books to bring. She wanted to make sure she does not run out of reading material, so she looked at her reading journal to see how many books she read on past vacations. For each vacation, she records the vacation lengths in days and how many books she read. Why? So again, the vacation length in days is X. The books she read is Y. And this is going to be essential to what we are doing when we are running our statistical report. All right. Now, of course, you hear this round your answer to the nearest thousandths, which we're going to have to follow that. So let's go ahead and do this. So we read the problem already. So we know what it's about: vacation, reading books, all this, that, and the third. So we read the problem. Now we got to put the information in decimals. So when we put it in decimals, we should have something that looks like this. In the second column, of course, you got your table. All right, this is the table. This is the information that we needed. All right, and this is the how the graph looks like. So we don't put the data now, and we just pulled it. So now what we have to do is not analyze it, but before I analyze, let's address some other things in particular. You see how this is x2 and this is y2? Well, in this category, that's how I should label my equation. My equations gotta match those headings. So keep that in mind when you're doing this, okay? All right. M represents my slope. B is my y-intercept, and R as my correlation. So again, we got around to the nearest thousand, so my slope should be 0.423. That's my slope. And then my y-intercept is 4.867. That's my intercept. And then R, since it's already in a thousands place, you just leave it alone as you write it as this. Okay? So this pretty much tells us all what we need to do. Got our numbers, we got everything we need. So now let's get ready and apply, interpret this data. So we read the problem, we input the data, we pulled the data. Now we got to interpret it as it relates to the situation. So again, the situation is the books and vacation. So let's go ahead and get started. So let me keep. All right, let's get back into it, shall we? So let's talk about this. So your R or your correlation is 0.0583. But we know anything that is less than zero point 0.6 is a weak correlation. So what this is saying that there's barely a relationship between vacation, the length, of course, and books read. So again, it's not a causation. Well, it's barely a causation because you gotta think about it. When you're on a vacation, the more time you have on a vacation, of course, you're gonna read more books if you have that kind of time. But it's not too much of a strong correlation. But it is, something that could be realistically done, and it does make sense. So, with that being a weak correlation, you barely have a relationship, but you have one still between vacation and book read. So, what this is saying, because it's a positive, longer the vacation, more books are read. Again, just think about it for a second. You're on this vacation and you got pretty much literally nothing much to do, but you decide to bring your books. For those who like to read, I like to read, so it makes sense for me, you know. Or think about this as a power outage, you know. You got pretty much you're not gonna be on your phone because you're trying to conserve battery, but just reading the books. Oh, wait, not you read more books the longer the power's out, of course, because that's the only thing that you got to keep you entertained or relax. All right, so we answered that part of the correlation. You see how we just described the correlation as a weak correlation? And then how we described it a little bit first, and there was barely a relationship between vacation and books read. And then we went into details. The longer the vacation, the more books read. So we took care of that. So let's go ahead and move on to other things. We're not done yet. All right. Now we're talking about our model and just that. So going back to what we did decimals, y equals 0.423 thousandths x plus 4.867 thousandths. Now, we have to describe that slope, mainly the slope, as it pertains to the relationship or to the situation. So, since our slope is positive, we can say the following, that our model predict and I'm sorry about the handwriting, but I think you guys could, understand it. for each additional day of vacation, there's a increase of one book read. Again, I do apologize about this handwriting, but I have some technical issues, so I will read this. Again, the slope, let me talk about this. The slope is 0.423, but because you are dealing with the situation, you got to talk about it as 1 because you're mainly talking about the book. So you are saying for each additional day of vacation, which is the X part of it, there's because the slope is positive is 1 over X, there's a increase of one book, because you can have a 423 thousandths of a book read. Well, you can, but you shouldn't read the whole book though. So I made the distinction around. So when you come to that part of the rounding and those kind of things, just make your best judgment depending on what kind of situation that you are in. So we can do it just like that. And that's the majority of the things that are going to be on your test.